so we started today's lesson, and it started on page 22. So please open up to that. And basically all we did yesterday was we looked at all of the symbols that we had already seen, like union, intersection, minus, complement, all of that type of stuff. And we applied that to a Venn diagram that includes 3 subsets instead of just 2, right? And we just basically tried to interpret the symbols that we saw and connect them to the Venn diagram. So for example, this letter B, we just colored the B circle, right? The next one was A union C, so we joined A and C together and colored all of those. This guy is A intersection B intersection C, so that's the overlap of all 3, and so on and so forth. Okay, C complement, for example, is everything but C. And so we went through all of this, and you guys can review. Hopefully you have that colored in, but if not, then you should look at the completed notes on D2L and make sure that you understand why the shaded piece of the Venn diagram matches the symbols that you see on the left. Okay. Today what we are going to do is answer some application questions that may involve 3 subsets. And with these types of questions, you have to pay really close attention to wording. One tiny little word can mean, for example, that we are excluding one section of the Venn diagram, okay, or including it, or what have you, okay? So here's the first question on page 25, I believe. No, 24, my bad. The Venn diagram displays the results of a survey of 100 students in a high school regarding movies they watched in the last 2 weeks. D is the number of students who watched Divergent. I is the number of students who watched Interstellar. And L is the number of students who watched Leviathan. Is that, I think, what is it? Leviathan. How many people have seen at least one of these movies? Oh, wow. I would be right here. I'd be on the outside. I haven't seen any of them. Which one's the best? Interstellar, okay. All right. We'll give it a watch. Okay, so let's answer these questions. Okay, the number of students who like Divergent or Interstellar is? How many people like Divergent or Interstellar? Shh. You may need to actually spend some time figuring this out. Yeah. 30. Divergent or Interstellar? So tell me how you're getting 30.
Is it all?
I think you are. I think 30's right.
Was it all of Divergent, like all of that circle and all of?
Yeah. This guy? Oh, whoops. I guess I should get a pen. Or means union, right? So we're adding all of these numbers together. And what I like to do so that I don't miss anything is I kind of do the section. So I do, okay, no overlap. And then these 3 would be some overlap, and then this one is all overlap, right? So that I'm not sort of missing anything. So just make sure that you're adding all of those numbers. So it's 17 plus 3 plus 1 plus 1 plus 2 plus 6. Okay, so that's 20, 21, 22, 24, 30. Okay? There's actually another way that you could have done this, though. How many people did not watch those 2 movies? 70. 68 plus 2. Okay? How many people are surveyed in total? 100. What's 100 minus 70? 30. Okay? So sometimes it's easier to calculate the complement and then use the total and the complement to get the number of people that you're looking for. Okay? All right. The number of students who like Divergent and Interstellar. 7. Yes. So and is union. So we're looking at 1 plus 6. Sorry, and is not union. It's intersection. 1 plus 6, so that's 7. Okay, N, bracket, bracket, L intersection D, bracket, minus I, bracket, is. Yes, it's 1. Good. So how do you guys interpret that? What's L intersection D?
6 and 1 in that middle there, and then minus I, so minus.
Exactly. So L intersection D is this football shape, but then we take out the I part, which is this. This is almost like, I don't know, what, an acorn maybe? That's 1. Exactly. Good. Yep. Okay. The number of students who like Leviathan or Interstellar, but not Divergent. Leviathan or Interstellar, but not Divergent. Yes. It's 87. Yeah, it's basically this or this, but take out Divergent. So it's 17 plus 2 plus 68. These three at the bottom. Yeah. And that works out to be 87 students. By the way, if you show this work down here and you don't get the question completely correct, then you could get partial marks because I can actually see what are the regions of the Venn diagram that you're including or not, right? And if you just mess up on maybe one of them, then you may get partial marks for that. So it's a really good idea to do this sort of addition that I've shown beside the answers so that I can see where you're coming from, okay? The number of students who like only one of the movies is, what's that? I didn't hear. Sorry? 90. That's 20.
Like the circles together, 88, but the two, it didn't like, so it could be like 88 or 90, because it didn't say that they watched movies.
Okay, that's a good point. I would interpret this to be the number of students who like only one of the movies. Only one of the movies is only D or only L or only I. Does that make sense? If they said at most one movie, how many students like at most one movie? How would that change? Yeah. Yeah, you'd add the 2 as well, right? Because it'd be one movie, at most one movie is one movie or no movies. So it would be 68 plus 17 plus 3 plus 2. But this says one movie. So if they like one movie, we just add these 3 together. Yeah. Yeah, that's 88. So 3 plus 17 plus 68. And that's 88. And the number of students who are in this set defined by I union L complement. I union L complement. There's 5, yeah. So I union L is this and this. So if you were to cover up these 2 bubbles, there'd be just this left over, 3 plus 2. Which is 5. Okay, so far so good? All right, so I would like you guys to try this question on page 25. And then we're going to do some where we actually have to draw the Venn diagrams ourselves. All right, so here is a question where we're actually going to have to come up with our own Venn diagram, and then we can use that Venn diagram to answer some questions, okay? So Shannon's high school starts a campaign to encourage students to use green transportation for traveling to and from school. At the end of the first semester, Shannon's class surveys the 750 students in the school to see if the campaign is working, and they obtain the following results, okay? So here's sort of all our clues, although there actually is one clue already that's given to us just in the first paragraph. Does anyone know what we should probably be paying attention to in the first paragraph? Yeah, the 750, right? So this is essentially the number of the universal set is 750. Everything in the Venn diagram needs to add up to 750. Okay? So here is what we see. 370 students use public transit, 100 students cycle and use public transit, 80 students walk and use public transit, 35 students walk and cycle, 20 students walk, cycle, and use public transit, 445 students cycle or use public transit, and 265 students walk or cycle. Okay, so we want to draw a Venn diagram to illustrate the relationship between the sets of cycling, walking, and using public transit. And then we're going to answer some questions based on what we draw. So let's start out by, I want to try and have all these clues in the picture as we go. Okay, so here is our Venn diagram. And we need, how many subsets do we need in this Venn diagram? 3. Okay, and I'm going to label them public transit. I'll just maybe use a P for that. Walk and cycle. Okay? So we have all these clues, and we somehow have to use them to fill out the different regions of the Venn diagram. Where do you think the best place to start would be? If we could fill out one region first, what do you think would be the best? The middle region. Yes, the middle region, okay? The reason why you want to try, if you can, to fill out the middle region is because that one's included in all of the others, right? And the totals will include that middle part. So do we know how many students are in the overlap of all 3? Yeah, 20. 20 students walk, cycle, and use public transit. So this is going to be 20. And I can kind of check that off. I like to, when I'm doing a Venn diagram that requires a lot of different clues, I like to check them off so that I know, okay, I've used this, so I can just now look at the other ones. Okay? Now, if possible, what would be the next best regions to fill out? Yeah? Like just this part? Okay. Just walking, just cycling, just public transit. Okay, do we have that information? We know that 370 students use public transport, but that's the entire circle. Yeah. So ideally, essentially what you need to do is fill out regions where you only have one unknown, right? If I tried to fill out this public transit thing here, I have this one subset is divided into 4 regions. I only know one of those 4. So that's going to be a challenge, okay? But is there another place that I can start? Yeah. On the intersections, yeah. So you kind of want to start in the middle and work your way outwards if you can. Could we fill out any of these guys? The overlaps of 2. Yeah. Yeah, so 80 students walk and use public transit. So that's this sort of standing up football shape over here, okay? That has to add to 80. So could we fill out this part here? That has to be 60, right? 60 plus 20 is 80. Okay? Okay? Anything else that we can fill out right now? Yeah?
The 35 students walk and cycle?
Yeah, so 35 students walk and cycle. So that's this football thing over here. So how many people only walk and cycle? 15, right? Because 15 plus 20 is 35. Okay? That's walk and cycle. Anything else? Yep. Yes. Right, so this has to be 80 because this football shape has to add up to 100, right? So 80 plus 20 is 100. Okay, cool. All right, so now could we fill out the public transit bubble? Yes, because it's in 4 regions. The total has to equal 370, and we know 3 out of 4. So this over here is going to be 370 minus 80 minus 20 minus 60. Yep, 210. There we go. And that's this clue. Okay? Anything else that we can fill out? 445 students cycle or use public transit. Could we use that clue? Yeah, okay. What about the next clue? 265 students walk or cycle. Could we use that clue? We could. 265 students walk or cycle. What 2 bubbles does that represent? This, right? Walk or cycle is these 2 circles. That's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regions. So we know that the total of those 6 has to equal 265. Do I have enough information to say how many are in here and how many are in here? Too many unknowns, right? There are 6 regions that have to add up to 265, but I only know 4 out of 6. So I don't know how the remainder splits up between only walking and only cycling. Yeah?
Could you find out how many cycle?
Yeah. So we can use this clue. If you look at 445 students cycle or use public transit, that's these 2 subsets here. And again, these 2 are divided into 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 regions. How many of the 6 regions do I know, though? 5 out of 6, yeah. So I can use this clue, the 445 students, to figure out this guy. This one is going to be 445 minus all of these other regions. 210 minus 60 minus 20 minus 80 minus 15. So I have 6 to start off with. I'm subtracting the other 5. I don't know what that comes to.
It comes up to
60? Okay. Okay, so this is 60. Once I get this guy, could I say how many are only walking? Yes. Now I can use that last clue about the 265 students. So this is going to be 265 minus 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 60 minus 20 minus 80 minus 15 minus, what did I miss? 60. Is it 30? Okay. Okay. Are we done? No, what are we missing? What's that? The universal, exactly, yeah. So that's where we can now say, okay, the universal is going to be 750 minus anything in the subsets. Okay, so I'm going to start by doing, I like to sort of do this systematically so I don't forget anything. I'll do the only 1, 2, and all 3. So 210 minus 30 minus 60 minus 60, 80, 15 minus 60 minus 80 minus 15, and then minus 20. And I don't know what that is. How much? 275. So this is 275. Okay, so you constantly have to kind of go through the clues again and see which one you can use. And the most important thing is if you're filling in a section of the Venn diagram, you can't have too many unknowns in that bubble. You have to only have 1 unknown. So if you have too many, you have to move on to another clue and then go back. Okay? All right, let's answer some of these questions. What is NP P minus C union W. What do you think? Yeah, it's 210, right? So this represents P, the whole P bubble, minus C union W. So that's anything that's in here is taken out. So this is 210. Okay. How many students walk or cycle but don't use public transit? Walk or cycle, but don't use public transit. Yeah. 105, yeah. So it's these three, 60, 15, and 30, right? It has to be in those two bubbles, but cannot be in the P bubble. So this is 60 plus 15 plus 30, which is 105. Okay. How many students do not cycle, walk, nor use public transit? 275, that's right. Okay, now I have to tell you that when you are doing these questions, err on the side of showing too much work rather than too little work, because this question would probably be worth 5 marks. 1 for the Venn diagram, 3 for the other ones. Okay? If you draw your Venn diagram wrong, and I have no idea where you're getting any of your numbers from, you're going to get 0 out of 2 for that part, right? Whereas if you can show me, oh, this is how I found this bubble, then if you miss one little thing, it's just a tiny little mistake. And I will carry that mistake through. So if you then use an incorrect Venn diagram to answer these 3 questions, but you answer them correctly based on the wrong Venn diagram, you'll get credit for that, okay? I can't do it, though, if I can't see where you're coming from. So you got to show me everything. How did you come up with all of the numbers in here? All right, so I'm going to get you guys to try this question. Okay, so these are tricky. And the reason why they're tricky is that none of them are the same. Okay? You have to have a really good understanding of the English words and how that translates into a Venn diagram. And they're not all going to be like the first one where it's like, I start with the overlap of 3, and then I can do the overlap of all 2, and then I can do the only this, and that, you know, like some of them are easier than others. This one is a little bit more challenging because the wording in the clues is nuanced, right? There's these little words like only in there that make a big, big difference when you're filling in a Venn diagram to if it wasn't in there, okay? And the best way to work at these is to practice them because, as I said, they aren't all the same. So if you practice interpreting all of these words, then it'll just come to you, okay? Okay, so I'm going to call this tea, coffee, juice. Okay, what is a region that I can fill in right away? Yep. Yeah, so 10 drink all 3. There we go. Okay? All right, what else? 6 drink only juice. Okay, so that's only juice is juice but nothing else. No overlap. So that's only juice. Okay, what else?
The 2 customers drank only tea and juice.
Okay. Yeah, so only tea and juice. If you only drink tea and juice, you drink those 2 drinks, but what do you not drink? Coffee. You do not drink coffee. So only tea and juice means the overlap of tea and juice, but not the coffee. This part's 2. If it had just said tea and juice, the entire football would have had to equal 2, which is not possible because there's already 10 people in there. Okay? All right, so that is done. What else? Yeah. Yes, so 12 only drink tea and coffee. So this one I saw some confusion. A lot of people were putting 2 in there because they thought that this had to add to 12. If it said 12 people drink tea and coffee, that would be correct this would have to add to 12. But only tea and coffee means you drink tea and coffee, you do not drink juice, because there's the only word in there, okay? So this is the part, that's 12. Okay, all right, is there anything else that we can fill in right now? Yeah, the tea. Totally, we can fill in the tea because tea is divided into 4 regions. And we know 3 out of 4, and we know what the total should be. So tea, only tea is going to be the total in tea, which is 29 minus 12 minus 10 minus 2. Right? That whole circle has to add up to 29. And so that works out to be 5. Yeah. So this just says 29 customers drank tea. If it says they drank tea, that's the entire circle, right? If it says they only drank tea, then you'd just be talking about the 5. Okay? All right, anything else that we can fill out? Anything else? Could we? So the coffee is, we use this one up, right? Coffee altogether is 33, but we don't know how that breaks up between these 2 regions. Yes?
36 customers drink tea or juice.
Yeah, so tea or juice is these 2, which is in 6 regions, but we know 5 out of 6, right? So this part over here is going to be 36 minus all the rest of it. 6 minus 5 minus 2 minus 12 minus 10. And I believe that works out to be 1. 1 person in there. Okay, and now we can do the coffee because now we have 3 over 4. So this will be 33 minus 12 minus 10 minus 1. That's 10, right? Okay? And then how can we do the rest of it? Yep. Are we done?
I think I add it all up to see if there's any other.
Yeah. So listen, if this adds to 60, then everybody drinks something. But if it doesn't, then there might be people on the outside who don't drink anything, right? Well, they'd probably drink water, I would think. But anyway, that's not a bubble. Okay, so one thing that I do sometimes to make this easier, do we already know what the tea or juice adds up to? What does that add up to? 36 plus 10. So far there's 46 people accounted for. How many people will be here? 14. Okay, so 14 people drink nothing. You should drink coffee though. Actually, I shouldn't say that. If you can avoid it, great. Okay, so once you get that Venn diagram, the rest of it should be pretty straightforward. How many customers drank juice or tea but not coffee? So that's these 3 added together, right? We join these 2 bubbles, but we take out the coffee bubble. Okay? All right, any questions? Okay, so I think what I would like you guys to do is start working on these questions on the next page. The next few pages, basically we're done the unit right now. We're done set theory, okay? It's pretty short, but there are about, I don't know, 10 questions or so on the next few pages that you guys can start to work on. This last one, we're going to go through. You know what? Actually, I changed my mind. Let's go through this one today because we have time. So this is on page 33. What I want you guys to do over the weekend, guys, is I want you to do pages 28 to 32 in the booklet. Okay? But we are going to do this one now. Okay? So this is on the very last page, I believe, page 33. Yes. I'm skipping ahead. The practice questions you guys are going to do. Okay? All right, use the following clues to determine how many children have only one pet. Okay, so 28 children have a cat, dog, or bird. 13 children have a dog, 13 children have a cat, 13 children have a bird. 4 children have only a dog and cat, 3 children have only a dog and bird, 2 children have only a cat and bird, and no child has 2 of each pet. Okay, so you can't have 2 dogs, you can't have 2 cats, but you can have a dog and a cat. Okay, where would you start here? We want to know how many children have only one pet. Where would you start? Yeah.
I'll just get rid of the two in the unit and get to the square.
You would get rid of what?
The two that have no pet, just remove them.
There are no children who have no pets. What this tells us is that you can't double up. So if you have a dog, that counts as one person. You can't have 2 dogs, but you can have a dog and a cat. You can have more than one pet, but they have to be different types of pets. Okay? But where would you start? We want to know how many people have only one pet. Where would you start? What's that? Well, there's 28 people here, so, right? Where would you start? I don't even see a Venn diagram here. Draw a Venn diagram. Yes, draw a Venn diagram. Okay. It is Friday. Cat, dog, bird. Okay. Is there anything that we can fill out? Yes? What? Yes. So 4 have only dog and cat. So that's this over here. Okay? What else?
3 only have a dog and a bird.
Yes, that's here. That's 3. Anything else?
Only cat and bird.
Only cat and bird is 2. I didn't know so many people had birds. Anyway. Okay, is there anything else that we can fill out? This is just more informational, right? Yes? So 13 children have a cat, so this has to add up to 13. But we have 2 regions that we don't know. No, 28 in total. 28 is actually the union of all 3 because there's an or there.
Please excuse this interruption.
Okay, I'm going to give you a hint.
We have all the track and field athletes. Can you please meet Ms. Cameron at the social English doors?
Class is not done, by the way.
Please.
Track people just have to leave early. Okay, I'll give you a hint. We have too many unknowns. So let's introduce a variable. Where do you think would be a good place to put that variable? The middle. Yes. If we put it in the middle, then we can use that same variable to say how many are in only cats, how many are in only dogs, and how many are in only birds. So we're going to put an X here. Okay? Now, we can't say how many are in cats, but we can use X to describe it. Okay? So if there are 13 children that have a cat, this is going to be 13 minus 4 minus 2 minus X, which is, how would you simplify that? 7 minus X. Good. This guy, only dog, would, again, there's 13 students who have a dog. This is going to be 13 minus 4 minus 3 minus X. How much is that? 6 minus X. Okay? And then this guy, again, 13 children have a bird. I didn't know birds were so popular. So this is 13 minus 2 minus 3 minus X. And that is 8 minus X. Okay? Now, let's go back to the first clue. The first clue, 28 children have a cat, dog, or bird, tells us how many people are in the union of all three. So if we add up all of these regions, what should we get? 28. Yeah, so this is how we can figure it out, okay? C union D union B, the number of people in there is 28. So if we add up all of the different regions, that should add up to 28, and we're only going to have one variable, okay? So I'm going to start with adding, just so I don't miss anything, anything that's in all three. Or sorry, anything that's only cats, only dogs, only birds. So that would be 7 minus x plus 8 minus x plus 6 minus x plus, now I'll add the only two of them, 2 plus 3 plus 4, and then plus the middle, which is x. And that has to add up to 28. Okay. Now, this we can simplify, because all we're doing is adding numbers and x's. If we think about how many x's there are altogether, I've got -1 minus another one minus another one. How much is that so far?
3x.
-3x plus an x, -2x. And then 7 plus 8 is 15, plus 6 is 21, plus 2 is 23, plus 3 is 26, plus 4 is 30, equals 28. Okay? So if I maybe subtract 30 from both sides, I will get -2x equals 28 minus 30 is -2. So what's x? X equals 1. Okay, so if you know what x is, now you can go back, and I'm going to do this in a different color, fill in all of these other regions. This is 1, 6 minus x is 5, 8 minus x is 7, and 7 minus x is 6. Now we know all of those numbers. And so we can answer the question, how many children have only one pet? One child has all 3 pets. How many children have only one pet? 18. So only one pet, yes, is 6 plus 5 plus 7, which is 18. Okay, it's a tricky question. All right, so I'm going to stop there for today.